Hello, this is Darren welcoming you to the 2057th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline 21st of July 2016. The readers this week are Caroline, John, Ali and Darren, with Colin on the controls. The editor was Phillip, and the production and distribution team is Phillip, Joan and Jean. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Breuer and performed by Jean-Jacques Perret and is used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. The events information has been collated by us from other sources. The local news headlines this week include Parked cars hamper firefighters on call-out and Station heist, gang is jailed. Before the news, we have one or two special news items and notices. First, the sunrise and sunset times for tomorrow, 22nd of July, are sunrise at 5:10 a.m. and sunset at 21:03. Do get in touch with us to share your own news and special announcements. We love to hear from you. If you have any comments about the Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020-8805-6578. I'll read that again. It's 020-8805-6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. Now Ali will read the first item of local news.
Station heist. Gang is jailed. A gang who closed Enfield Chase railway station in a daring attempt to break into a cash point machine last summer have been jailed. Dressed as railway workers in orange boiler suits and hard hats, they boarded up the entrance to the station in Windmill Hill in the early hours of June the 15th. The gang had returned to the station undeterred with cutting equipment, having spent an unsuccessful 90 minutes the previous evening trying to break into the ATM. They stuck plywood across the entrance and placed red barriers across the door to make it look as if construction work was going on, to cover up their raid on the machine with power tools. Hundreds of rush-hour commuters arrived in the morning to find the station closed, unaware that the gang had earlier fled empty-handed. It was one of a string of burglaries committed by the 6-strong gang in a 7-month spree across London and the home counties. They targeted business premises with cash points, as well as residential addresses where they believed high-value items would be found. At Harrow Crown Court on Friday, they all pleaded guilty to a variety of burglary-related charges. Van Whitelock, 26, the mastermind from High Street, Barnet, was jailed for 8 years and 8 months for burglary and possession of cocaine with intent to supply. Barry Knowles, 30, from Camden Town, received 5 years and 10 months for conspiracy to burgle and possession of criminal property. Craig Jobbins David, 32, from Gospel Oak, and Shaka Cole, 32, of Muswell Hill, were both sentenced to 4 years in prison on the same charges. Joshua Scott, 30, of Sawyer Close, Edmonton, was given 19 months for conspiracy, and Shumel Meyer, 25, of King's Cross, was given a 16-month suspended sentence for conspiracy. Detective Inspector James Hale of the London Crime Squad said, "This was an audacious series of crimes that were often committed in broad daylight with the gang dressed as workmen. I would like to congratulate my team that has worked tirelessly to bring these offenders to justice, presenting a wealth of compelling evidence against them. I am very pleased that their hard work has paid off."
Parked cars hamper firefighters on call-out. Gridlock caused by parked cars in a cul-de-sac has got so bad that firefighters were almost unable to tackle a blaze. Council representatives, including Cabinet Member for the Environment Daniel Anderson, met with people in Autumn Close, Enfield, who have suffered nightmarish levels of traffic and congestion, with suggestions on how to resolve the problems. Neighbours said on July the 12th at around 1:45 a.m. there was a fire in their service road at the back of their homes. They said the blaze was at the very end of the road, so when the fire brigade arrived, they could not get to the fire due to cars parked there, which they're officially banned from doing. While the fire was put out and nobody was hurt, The neighbours said the firefighters' job was made difficult because of the attitude of people parking around the street, even when asked not to. Margaret Canham, who lives on Autumn Close, said the fire could easily have spread into the houses. She said even a bike couldn't get down there. It would have to be empty for a fire truck. When they realised they couldn't get in, they had to call in another engine for an extension for the hose as they couldn't reach. It's not an inconvenience, it's dangerous. When I moved in 33 years ago, the people we bought it off said the rules for the service road were that you weren't allowed to leave your car there. I have a parking space in my garage on that road, but I can't use it because people keep parking across it. Among the council's suggestions for lessening the traffic worries were for the two schools on the street, Carterhatch Infant School and Russet House School, to agree with a Park and Stride initiative, which would encourage parents to park away from the road and walk their children a short distance to the school. They also said they've written to Autumn Close Children's Centre after complaints that rubbish, including nappies, were being dumped all over the street, as well as promising to investigate whether extra parking restrictions are possible and fix damage to the road in the next month. Parking enforcement officers were also promised to patrol in greater numbers when the schools restart in September. Councillor Anderson said he'd suffered the traffic problems firsthand when visiting Russet House last week. He said, while coming in just before 3 p.m. the other day, there were cars parking very badly. Nobody could get out because of the parents. We need the school's heads and chairmen of governors to work with us and push it through. Both schools were contacted by the council. Carterhatch did not respond, and Russet House said the problems were not being caused by their parents or staff, as they have a large car park on their site.
Sounds like summer. Pims and a picnic were the ideal accompaniment for a day of music and dance in Enfield. Hundreds of people turned out for the Friends of 40 Hall Park shindig on Sunday, and the 17th century manor house and its grounds in 40 Hill provided the perfect backdrop for an afternoon's entertainment. After a performance by the Etc. Morris Men, a string of acts enchanted families. Hayes Samba, a children's samba group, was followed by a variety of artists spanning jazz, rock and opera. Joan Brown, events volunteer organiser, said, "We had more than 1,000 people come along, and we had some very good bands. The money raised will go towards conservation of the park." It culminated in an amazing rendition by Benjamin Bloom of Bohemian Rhapsody. It was quite a showstopper.
Council Brexit concern. The leader of Enfield Council says he expects Brexit will cause shockwaves in the borough's economy. In a written answer to a question from a fellow councillor published on Wednesday, Councillor Doug Taylor said while it was still too early to know exactly what the impact would be, he felt it would lead to further uncertainty in several areas. Councillor Taylor, who campaigned to remain in the EU, said, "It is still very early days to assess any impact on Enfield of the referendum leave decision. However, it is clear already that there are more shockwaves in the economy to come before Enfield's new, post-Brexit economy starts to take hold." He warns there may be further uncertainty in funding from central government, with the council facing having to make £56 million in cuts by 2020. He said, "Where the Chancellor has already made it clear that his emphasis has shifted from balancing the books to ensuring stronger economic performance, this may result in continued austerity for most public services, most notably local government and transport. On growth, it is far too early to tell. The combined impact of cheaper money and exports, balanced against more expensive imports, an unknown legislative framework, uncertainty in the financial markets and a possible downturn in the housing market mean it is as yet impossible to predict the impact on growth. But it is true that there is far greater uncertainty in the economy than before the referendum."
Trio jailed following firearms seizure. 2 gang members have been jailed, along with the girlfriend of one of them, after a weapons cache, including a deadly loaded machine gun, was found in the back garden of her Enfield home. The Scorpion machine gun was among an arsenal of firearms found by the Met Police's Trident Gang Command after a search warrant was executed at an address in Dendridge Close in July last year. It was the home of 23-year-old Inga Komakech, the girlfriend of Farah Mohammed, 22, a member of the notorious Get the Money gang, who at the time of the weapons seizure was locked up in prison serving a sentence for unrelated matters. He had organised the delivery of weapons to his girlfriend's address via their friend and fellow gang member, Jamal Mahmoud, using a mobile phone smuggled into jail. Mahmoud, 21, like Mohammed, was an active member of the gang, which had operated in the borough for years and which had been involved in a number of violent attacks linked to turf war disputes with other gangs, Wood Green Crown Court heard on Friday. When police executed the warrant at Mohammed's girlfriend's home, the property was empty, but in an outbuilding in the back garden they uncovered the arms haul. The contents of a rucksack revealed a small black case containing 2 loaded handguns. A small red case was also located and found to contain the loaded Scorpion machine gun. More than 200 rounds of ammunition were also discovered. The ammunition was in various forms. Some of this was analysed and was designed to expand on impact. Komakech was arrested at a nearby address and broke down in tears, indicating that a boy called Jamal had given her the rucksack. Mahmoud was arrested soon afterwards, and his phone records led police to Mohammed. Mohammed, Mahmoud and Komakech all pleaded guilty to firearms-related charges and were sent to prison. Mohammed was jailed for 10 years, and Mahmoud was given a sentence of 6 years and 6 months, which will come into effect after he has served an existing 5.5-year spell for a separate robbery offence. Komakech was jailed for 5 years. Detective Constable Gareth Starr from the Trident Gang Command said, "The recovery of this arsenal has undoubtedly saved lives. This was a devastating haul of firearms and ammunition destined for the capital's streets, for no other aim than to maim, kill and terrify gang rivals and anyone who happened to get in their way."
Public service iceberg. Opposition councillors claimed Enfield Council's customer services have struck an iceberg. During a full council meeting, the Conservative group proposed several measures to deal with complaints about the length of time the public have had to wait for council services and the ease of use of the website. They claimed members of the public contacting the call centre have had to wait up to 42 minutes in some instances to get through to an officer for assistance on matters such as paying council tax, and suggested measures like recruiting more staff and a full review of services. This was rejected by 31 votes to 20, although Labour councillors admitted improvements will have to be made. Councillor Joe Laban, who opened the debate, said the problems have been well known and documented for months, including on social media. In her speech, which drew applause from a busy public gallery, she said, "There have been complaints that when you log something online, nothing's done. It refers you back to the old site, then back to the new one, and no information is provided. The queues downstairs are often out of the door. There's a lack of customer awareness that excludes the many. Most are never able to speak to a human being. How do you expect residents to contact the council if you take away the avenues through which they can do so? People on a tight budget might not be able to stay on the phone that long. It's not a free telephone line. It seems we've struck an iceberg when it comes to customer care. We need to grab the issue by the hand now, not in 6 months' time." In response, Councillor Derek Levy of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which looks after the changes to customer services, said improvements are being made, but you don't hear about things that when they go well. He said, "We need to look at the quality of our communications, the one-to-one communications with residents, which in my view were not as clear and explicit as they should be. If you address the cause, you can better manage the effect. That work is ongoing and is not standalone. We've watched the amazing staff taking calls across the day with empathy and support. They say some calls take 42 minutes, but others get through in 42 seconds.
Students' big push to win bike competition. An Enfield special school has, for the second year in a row, won awards for encouraging cycling. Russet House School in Alton Close, Enfield, has won both regional and national prizes in the Big Pedal Challenge, the UK's largest inter-school cycling and scooter contest. The challenge asks pupils, staff and parents to travel to school on two wheels, and each day schools compete to see who can record the largest number taking part. Russet House, which caters for young people with autism, came out on top against mainstream primary schools, despite having only 112 pupils. Over 500,000 pupils participated overall. Head teacher Julie Foster said, "We're very proud of our children, staff and parents for supporting this event. It has helped inspire many parents to try cycling with their children." Council Cabinet Member for Environment, Councillor Daniel Anderson, said, "I offer hearty congratulations to Russet House Special School. Many youngsters love to ride bikes and scooters, and they do it because it's fun. The Big Pedal shows children that cycling to school is not only enjoyable, but can also help you to stay healthy at the same time."
An apprentice has been among the first trainees to receive a new government training award. UK Power Networks electricity trainee Louis Baldwin collected his Trailblazer certificate at the House of Commons on July the 11th. Mr Baldwin, 24, joined the training scheme in 2014 to become a jointer, connecting and repairing underground electricity cables to keep the lights on across London, the South East and East Anglia. Mr Baldwin, who lives in Enfield and works in Brimsdown, said, "I am really pleased to pass the apprenticeship and feel proud to be among the first in the country. I'm looking forward to putting my skills into practice."
Trio are sentenced over bid to swindle man out of £52,000. A gang of criminals who persuaded an 80-year-old to pay out £52,000 for unnecessary work to his house in a despicable con have been convicted. The victim, who lives in Enfield, was asked to hand over the cash for equipment costs, but became suspicious when he was asked to transfer the same amount to another account, despite the money already clearing through the banks. Investigators from Enfield Council's Trading Standards Department found that the work the man had been asked to pay for was completely unnecessary. A total of £17,000 was withdrawn from bank accounts before they were frozen. Christopher Salmon, 27, from Manchester, was found guilty of 2 charges of money laundering and has been sentenced at Wood Green Crown Court for 4 years in prison. His sister, 29-year-old Eileen Salmon, also from Manchester, was found guilty of converting criminal property after the court heard that some of the victim's cash had been traced to her account. She was handed an 180-hour community order with a 4-month curfew and a tagging order. Their accomplice, Jack O'Reilly, 27, of Dymchurch in Kent, admitted 5 counts of money laundering. The court heard that some of the money had been traced to his bank account, and he was sentenced to 10 months in prison. Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Environment, Daniel Anderson, said the local authority had zero tolerance on confidence tricksters preying on elderly and vulnerable people, and warned would-be fraudsters that they would be prosecuted. He added, "This was a despicable crime against a vulnerable elderly person, so I am very pleased that the people behind this cruel crime have been found guilty and punished in this manner."
Support group to launch for people with arthritis. Enfield's first dedicated arthritis support group is set to launch next month. The first meeting of Arthritis Care will be held on August 17th between 6 and 8 p.m. at the Enfield Art Cafe, allowing people with arthritis or anyone who cares for someone with a condition to talk about experiences, meet people and share advice. The group has been set up by Enfield woman Somerset King, who was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in 2010. She said, "When I was diagnosed, there weren't many support groups. Meeting others in a similar situation to you is comforting, and there is a need for a support group in Enfield. For more information or to book, email Enfield Arthritis Social Group at outlook.com.
Major blaze at scrapyard hits over 200 tonnes of metal. More than 200 tonnes of scrap metal were caught up in a blaze which took 72 firefighters and 10 engines to put out. The fire, which began in a scrapyard in Theobald's Park Road on Sunday afternoon, July the 17th, was fought by crews brought in from as far afield as Southgate, Tottenham, Hornsey and Barnet, as well as Enfield and Edmonton. The London Fire Brigade said a diesel tank was also involved in the blaze, but the fire had been brought under control. Station manager Fraser Ferguson said, "It's one of the warmest days of the year so far, and our crews have worked incredibly hard in hot and arduous conditions to get this fire under control. But we will be at the scene for some time now, damping down." 3 skip lorries, a digger and a portable cabin were destroyed in the flames, which started at 4:38 p.m. and were under control by 7:10 p.m. It is not known if there were any injuries, and a brigade spokesman said an investigation was underway.
Council plead for A&E. Enfield Council have called on the Health Secretary to do more to save North Middlesex Hospital's A&E department. An urgent motion was passed at a full council meeting on Wednesday, July 13th, calling on the Secretary to urgently intervene to save our local hospital. The Care Quality Commission, CQC, last week rated the urgent and emergency services at North Mid as inadequate and have given the hospital until August 26 to make rapid improvements. North Middlesex Chief Executive Julie Lowe has gone on leave, with Libby McManus of the Royal Free London NHS replacing her, currently on an interim basis. Councillor Alev Kazimoglu, Cabinet Member for Health and Social Care, said it was both a failure of management and of central government funding to Enfield CCG which had caused the crisis. She said, "The reality is that it is in crisis, and the Secretary of State is doing nothing about it. There have been some serious management failures, but these are not the only issues, and are part of the financial troubles facing wider care in Enfield. We cannot stand up for our residents if we continue to deny the challenges being faced. We cannot claim to represent their interests. Anyone who believes a hospital can sustain their services under these conditions is living in a parallel universe. I call upon the Secretary of State to step in and save services at North Mid." The motion triggered passionate debate on both sides of the council chamber, with Conservative Councillor Anne-Marie Pearce saying it would be a disaster if the only A&E in Enfield were to close. Excuse me. She said, "It needs good management. Let's hope this new lady brought in by the Royal Free will get better results. Come on, please get the management right. You've got good caring staff. Don't let this department close. It would be a tragedy for the London Borough of Enfield." According to the CQC report, 22 serious incidents happened at the hospital's A&E in the past year, including one revealed in the Enfield Independent, when a failure to take hourly rounds meant a patient had lain dead for up to 4.5 hours before being found.
As the summer holidays approach, positive activities for our young people are central in our minds. The sports team at Enfield Council hope that the recent European Championships and Wimbledon and the upcoming Olympic Games at Rio will inspire our young people to get out and get active. We have a whole range of sports courses on offer right across the borough all summer long in our Move More Enfield campaign, ranging from horse riding to gymnastics. If none of these is up your street, there are also a wide range of sports clubs locally that have activities for all age groups, and our partners Fusion are running courses galore in the leisure centres. In culture, festivals and events abound. Young people are the focus of the Mayor's charity initiative, Enfield Sounds Great, and on Saturday, July the 23rd, from 11 a.m, Palace Gardens Shopping Centre in Enfield Town is teaming up with the Mayor to collect unwanted musical instruments to distribute to young people who can't afford to buy them. On August the 2nd, 9th and 16th, Millfield Theatre is teaming up with Edmonton Green Shopping Centre to present world-class circus, dance and outdoor arts as part of the Circulate London Festival, which is supported by Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. With livestock and the Mayor's Fun Run at 40 Hall, the Enfield Town and Country Show, and pop-up cinema in Enfield Town Park, the Broomfield Blues and Palmer's Green Festival in Broomfield Park, Enfield is awash with summer delights.
No more excuses. Sort out this mess. Landlord demands action over fly-tipping black spot. A stinking haven for rubbish dumpers should be cleaned up and sorted out once and for all, a landlord claims. Rotting rubbish and discarded items in Devonshire Mews Palmer's Green are a health hazard and meriting council intervention, says Martin Atfield. Piles of waste have been left there, and with no known owner, the site is an eyesore and a permanent source of frustration. Mr Atfield, 52, owns a shop premises in Green Lanes, and Devonshire Mews is a service road behind the main road. He said, "This has been going on for 18 months and it shows no sign of stopping. It's been horrendous. Last summer you'd gag when you walk past the bins and the stuff that's dumped there. The council will now reluctantly, in my opinion, empty the wheelie bins, but it won't clear up stuff that's on the floor. The residents nearby just have to endure it." The service road is 100 metres or so long. It said it doesn't own the site and cannot trace the owner, but it has an option. There's no long-term solution, but it can adopt the road, and it's about time it did so. A spokesman for Enfield Council said, "As Devonshire Mews is unadopted, there isn't an owner who's responsible for the land, and the council is not responsible for collecting any of the dumped waste. We've requested that residents help us identify those responsible by giving statements, but to date no one's come forward. However, in an effort to solve this problem, we served 71 warning notices in June to residents which Devonshire Mews serves, warning them of the consequences of dumping waste. Indeed, two £200 fixed penalty notices were issued last week to residents who were fly tipping in their own street. We will continue to monitor and take action where evidence allows, and we will book the community payback team to clear the alleyway for the third time in a matter of months."
Cricket duo have a whole lot of fun, and whole is spelt H-O-L-E. They must be mad. Test cricket legends Sir Ian Beefy Botham and Shane Warne played one hole of golf in Enfield today, Thursday. Just the one. Then they climbed into a helicopter to play one more hole of golf at another club. Then another, and so on, until they'd done 18 holes in all, one in each county that has a professional cricket team. Enfield Golf Club in Old Park Road South was chosen to represent Middlesex and was the 7th club in a trip that started in Durham, came down south before heading to Wales and ending up in Lancashire. All proceeds will go to the Beefy Charity Foundation, which helps fund projects relating to chronic illnesses and other challenges that young people face. Botham and Australian spin ace Warne arrived at Enfield Golf Club at 11:05 a.m. before departing for Essex at 11:35 a.m.
Pupils learn how to cake at Jewish Cake Bake Day. Children from Enfield to Elstree worked together with community centres and care homes for an annual cake sale. They were united for Jewish Care's 4th Great Jewish Bake Day, raising funds for older people who use the service in North London. In Finchley, chef Denise Phillip baked with residents of care centre Rubin's House, while Tots from Nagilla Nursery baked with members of Jewish Care's Edgware and Harrow Day Centre. Children from Eden Primary enjoyed a beach-themed tea party at the Betty and Asher Loftus Centre in Fryham Barnet. Eden Primary teacher Laura Fox said, "You can't teach this in a classroom. Small acts of kindness and reaching out to others is so important." In Enfield, Year 3 children from Wolfson Hillel Primary School baked cakes with members of the centre in Southgate. One student, Nathan Livingstone, baked with his great-grandma Phyllis Peters. He said, "It was great fun chatting to the older people, especially Nana. Especially Nana and I loved baking the cakes together." Miss Peters added, They are such lovely, well-behaved children, and they made beautiful fairy cakes. Daniel Carmel Brown, Jewish Care's Director of Fundraising and Marketing, said, "Bake Day is about so much more than raising funds. It's about people of all ages coming together in our homes and community centres to have tea and cake and understand more about Jewish care."
A fundraising team of babies used superhuman powers to raise money for baby charity Tommy's, which funds medical research. The toddlers from Baby Sensory, Cheshunt and Enfield were decked in superhero outfits including Superman and Superwoman capes. The tiny heroes and heroines were on a mission to save babies' lives at the event during one of their classes at Bush Hill Park Bowls Tennis and Social Club in Abbey Road. They were joining in a national campaign to raise £375,000 to help fund 4 research centres to prevent childbirth and prenatal problems. Vicky Jamal, who runs Cheshunt and Enfield baby sensory classes, said, "This superhuman sensathon was an enormously fun event that encourages parents and babies to tap into their inner Batman and raise funds for the research work Tommy's pioneers into the causes and prevention of miscarriage, stillbirth and premature births."
Enfield's aquathlon gold for 3rd successive year. Enfield are the London Youth Games aquathlon champions for the 3rd successive year. Over 400 young people competed in the games held at Crystal Palace National Sports Centre against the 32 other boroughs, with the gold medal returning to Enfield in the 2-stage event which combined swimming and cycling. The team also had success in swimming, with the women's team coming 3rd in both the able-bodied and the Para-Games events. Men's table tennis also picked up a bronze. Overall, Enfield came 20th in the competition. Nick Newman, aquathlon team manager, said, "I'm delighted for all the young people in the squad to be crowned London champions."
Borough's fire chief bows out after 30 years' service. Glowing tributes were paid this week to Enfield's highest-ranking firefighter, Leslie Bowman, who has retired as borough commander following 30 years' service. Currently, the London Fire Brigade's longest-serving black senior officer, Les, as he is known, rose through the ranks, having served at stations across the capital, to become borough commander 3 years ago. 7 years ago, he was awarded the Queen's Fire Service Medal in the birthday honours in recognition of his service to Londoners. To mark his retirement, a ceremonial roll call was held at Edmonton Fire Station last week, attended by colleagues and dignitaries. Les said, "I'm really going to miss just working with a nice group of people and being a borough commander responsible for 180 staff, all of whom I know personally. And, of course, I'm also going to miss keeping the community safe. One of the highlights of my career was being recognised in the Queen's Birthday Honours in 2009. I've also loved the many rescues I have been a part of and saving people's property. Those are things I will never forget." He joined the Fire Brigade in 1986 and spent all of his career as a firefighter at Dagenham in East London, with a brief stint at Whitechapel Fire Station before becoming a watch manager in the LFB Positive Action Team, LFB London Fire Brigade. In this role, Les encouraged and advised people from London's black and minority ethnic communities to join the brigade. After working in the team for 4 years, Les served at Barking Fire Station and then gained promotion to station manager at Kingsland Fire Station in Hackney. In 2008, he received a contribution to the Community Award for his work in supporting the Not Another Drop anti-gun and knife crime campaign in Brent. He is one of only a handful of black officers to receive the award. The Brigade's Deputy Assistant Commissioner, Sabrina Cohen-Hatton, said, "Les is one of our most committed officers. He has spent significant amounts of his personal and professional time mentoring both firefighters and young people in local communities, in addition to his role as the Borough Commander of Enfield. His dedication and social conscience has significantly progressed the inclusion agenda in London Fire Brigade. and he certainly has made London Fire Brigade a better place to work. He will be sorely missed.
Rare rugs bring a sense of seaside charm to any room. The hot weather has finally arrived, but finding a beach to relax in and letting your feet sink into warm sand is difficult when you live in North London. However, Julie Napier, a single mother living in Edmonton, has come up with a solution to help you feel like you are by the seaside in the comfort of your own home. She has started sewing a collection of pebble rugs and wall hangings made from recycled jumpers, trousers and even designer fabrics provided by her friends who work in the fashion industry, which is sold online on her website, Rugazzled. Julie explains how she is able to shape the rugs to give the illusion they are pebbles and rocks without the material wearing down or being flattened. She says, "I cut the fabric into circles before filling them with wadding and then sewing them and shape them into pebbles. I then attach them all together on a backing, so there is no way they will come off, and they are also sprayed with a nano spray, which means that they are dirt and water resistant, and even if people wash them, they will still stay in the same position." Julie had been making handmade rag rugs and woven rugs for a number of years while homeschooling her 2 children, who are now aged 16 and 19. After they began college, she realised it was never too late for a single parent to start their own business, and so started stitching from a studio she built in her garden last February. The 51-year-old said, "This is my full-time job now, as I was previously educating my children, and so a lot of my time has been focused on them, and I feel it is my time now. I was weaving rugs in the beginning and selling them on markets, like New Spitalfields Market in Leighton and Alexandra Palace Market near Muswell Hill. I randomly made a pebble one, and everyone just went mad for it. People said my creations were very quirky and tactile, and so from then on, I scrapped all the others and started focusing on those designs." Julie admits she has never had any training, and her designs come naturally. She says, "The rugs and wall hangings are quite tranquil, and people enjoy touching and walking on them." Details rugazzled.com.
School expansion opens a new era. A school has unveiled spectacular new buildings. Garfield Primary will provide a modern learning environment and places for an extra 210 children as part of Enfield Council's Schools Expansion programme. The new building means that the school in Upper Park Road, New Southgate, can now admit 3 classes in every year group and will reach full capacity in 4 years' time with 630 pupils. It now has many outstanding facilities, including spacious classrooms with new ICT equipment and furniture, an ICT suite, which can be used by pupils and adults, a library, a music room, and several specialist rooms for learning support. Head teacher Karen Kwaja said, "Our vision was to build an outstanding school building that would have excellent facilities reflecting our broad and rich curriculum. It was a real labour of love, and I thank all the staff, parents, pupils, governors and the council for all their hard work and dedication to achieve this superb new school. We are immensely proud of this achievement." Garfield has been rated as good and was praised last year for being among the 100 top performing schools in the country for sustained improvement in attainment at level 4 or above in reading, writing and maths each year from 2012 to 2015. Mrs. Kwaja added, "We are all aiming to raise our standards even higher and are determined to be rated outstanding at our next Ofsted inspection. This building will help us to get there."
No men went to mow. A man claims Enfield Council's failure to cut the grass in his park for the past 2 months has meant misery for hay fever sufferers like himself. David Carefor can no longer enjoy a walk in Albany Park, Enfield Wash, because of the extra pollen in the air from a large expanse of unmown grass, which he says is now waist high. But if the 63-year-old from nearby St Stephen's Road was counting on it being cut so he can return to walk his Jack Russell Terrier any time soon, he's likely to be disappointed. Enfield Council is leaving the area of grass uncut in the park permanently and is doing the same in 16 selected areas of other open spaces in the borough to create natural wildlife habitats and meadows. The grass will be cut less frequently, partly because of a squeeze on budgets caused by government funding cuts, but also to maximise the biodiverse ecology of the borough's green spaces. Mr Carefor, who's a member of Community Action Partnerships for Enfield, said, "I couldn't understand why all of Albany Park's football pitches had been mowed, but a large patch of grassland close to the leisure centre and also near the children's playground hadn't been cut since April. I suspected it was done to make savings, but despite repeated complaints to local councillors, I never received an explanation. The increased grass pollen means that people like myself who suffer severe hay fever are forced to forego the pleasure of using the park. I've also spoken with mums who have children at nearby Chesterfield and Eastfield primary schools who were concerned that youngsters playing in the long grass could be bitten by ticks. Daniel Anderson, the council's member for the environment, said the local authority was ensuring it used its resources in the most effective way while fulfilling sound ecological management of parks. He explained, "The council has sought to create habitats that maximise the wildlife value of individual parks while retaining the scope for residents to fully enjoy the green space. To that end, it's been agreed that selected areas within 17 of our parks and open spaces will be left to grow naturally, although mown paths will be provided throughout the newly created habitats, following wish paths defined by natural footfall. In addition, where these habitats are being created, there will remain significant areas of the park open for other recreational facilities."
Medicine plea fear prompts a rethink. Prescriptions now at discretion of GPs. Health bosses in Enfield have said GPs will still prescribe medicines for free after plans to change the system were altered. Enfield Clinical Commissioning Group, or CCG, had been criticised following a decision outlined in May to stop doctors giving prescriptions for medicines regularly available over the counter at shops in an attempt to cut costs. Concerns were raised by the Enfield Over 50s Forum about the plans, which Chairman Monty Meth called unacceptable. But now, in a letter sent to all GPs in the borough, CCG chiefs have told them to use your professional discretion about prescribing easily available medicines such as hay fever, nasal sprays and allergy tablets. The CCG said it has not changed its position on over-the-counter medicines, but has provided further clarification for GPs. A spokesperson, whom the group declined to name, said, "Our responsibilities include paying for the costs of the medicines that patients in Enfield receive on prescription. With demand for NHS services continuing to increase, we are seeing greater levels of prescribing and rapidly rising medicine costs. The GP will assess each patient and will make a clinical decision based on the patient's individual health needs. We are encouraging patients to self-care for minor health conditions such as coughs, colds, hay fever and athlete's foot, for instance. Many patients visit their GP or A&E department with minor illnesses which could have been treated by self-care with advice from their pharmacist. It is vital that we use the NHS resources as effectively as possible in order to provide the best quality of care for all Enfield patients." After a meeting with group directors, Mr Meth said the CCG should not try to save money by hitting the community less able to bear the brunt, and should instead launch a borough-wide self-help campaign to help reduce the £1 million a year spent by the CCG on GPs prescribing products which can be bought at a pharmacy or supermarket. He said, "The Over 50s Forum has told the Enfield CCG bosses that it will continue to press the government and NHS England to end the underfunding for the CCG.
Mods mind their manners, and that's manners spelt M-A-N-O-R-S. Mod mayhem descended on a popular outdoor attraction as hundreds of scooter enthusiasts showed off their machines. Natty suits and snazzy scoots were well to the fore as 400 vehicles were on display in Enfield. It was the last time Capel Manor Gardens in Bullsmore Lane will host the Forester Scooter Club's Sunday Best Scooter Fest, which is moving to a new site next year. But organiser Maddie Mial said, "It was a great turnout. We had more than 2,000 people along and we had 400 scooters. We have competitions and there was even a scooter as first prize in the raffle." Music was provided by ska band Big Ten and the Mad Mods and Englishman band. Proceeds are going to Help for Heroes and a children's charity.
Come back you Spurs! Legends charity game. Ex-Tottenham heroes play match for charity. A team of Spurs legends produced an extraordinary comeback at a charity match which raised nearly £10,000. The Tottenham team beat an 11 representing the Nightingale Cancer Support Centre in Enfield 5-4, having trailed 4-1 with half an hour to play. The comeback was played out in front of a crowd of over 1,000 at the New River Sports Centre, who helped raise £9,700 for the centre. In the bright sunshine, Nightingale burst out of the traps and hit the post with less than a minute gone. The Legends' experience told as they began to get a foothold in the game and went close with a 40-yard Mark Gower lob that dipped just off target. But it was the charity side who took the lead on 22 minutes as Michael Barton's low drive brushed the fingertips of keeper Gareth Howells and trickled into the bottom corner. Robert Russell made it 2-0 4 minutes later, but Gower pulled one back on 34 minutes to keep his side in with a shout, cutting into the area from the left side and curling beyond the goalkeeper. It seemed like it would be vain, though, when Billy Bavin made it 3-1 4 minutes after half-time, and Russell finished off a fast-paced counter-attack to further stretch his side's lead 10 minutes later. The game turned on its head midway through the second half, however, as 4 goals in 11 minutes saw the Legends grab victory. Substitute Mickey Jarrett converted Gower's cutback to reduce the arrears on 62 minutes, and on 65, centre-back Stuart Nethercott, who had stayed up following a corner seconds earlier, steered a downward header inside the right-hand post. Less than 2 minutes later, it was 4-4, and Jarrett had his second, beating the advancing keeper to a ball over the top and clipping it home. Then the other central defender, Brian Statham, was the unlikely match winner on 73 minutes, drilling into the far corner from a rebound.
Edrich seals it for Southgate. Southgate, Enfield and Winchmore Hill all picked up victories in their respective divisions of the Middlesex County Cricket League on Saturday. Southgate maintained their Premier League run with a 4th win in 5 matches, overcoming Stanmore by 4 wickets after dismissing the home side for 155. Apart from opener Stephen Reingold, who carried his bat for 85, Southgate's attack met with limited resistance after Stanmore won the toss and decided to bat first. Southgate skipper Faisal Mir made 2 early breakthroughs, and whilst Reingold held firm, only 2 other Stanmore batsmen made it into double figures, Anshuman Rath, 20, and Jimmy Chalafous, 11. Hayden Morton was Southgate's most successful bowler, finishing with 3 for 31 from 17 overs. In reply, Southgate opener Tom Edrich followed in Reingold's footsteps, remaining unbeaten on 66 to clinch victory with 8 overs to spare. He put on 40 for the first wicket with Cameron Steele, 26, and then shared an unbroken partnership of 66 for the 7th wicket with Rashid Mahazada, 36 not out, after Southgate had slipped from 88 for 3 to 90 for 6. Enfield closed the gap on the sides immediately above them in Division 2 by beating Hornsey by 4 wickets in a tense, low-scoring match at Lincoln Road. 7 points now cover the 5 teams between 2nd and 6th places. The wickets were shared between Lee Robertson, 3 for 30, Dan Amedy, 3 for 30, Ryan Cunningham, 2 for 27, and Arthur George, 2 for 30, as Enfield bowled the visitors out for 126 in 55 overs, despite a 9th wicket stand between Jack Goldberg, 25, and Nia Amar Olenu, 33. In reply, Enfield lost 3 quick wickets to Ben Wain, 3 for 41, before Jack Plum, 21, and skipper Kyle Bacchus-Brown, 33, steadied the innings, and then Joe Norton, 22 not out, and Amedy, 17 not out, steered the home side to victory with 5 overs to spare. Winchmore Hill stormed to the top of Division 3 by overwhelming visitors Uxbridge by 157 runs. Morgan Pryor, 88, and Mark Barrell, 71, led the way as the Hill totalled 236 for 7 in 55 overs after electing to bat first. Skipper, De La Rey Terre Blanche, then routed Uxbridge for just 79 inside 25 overs, finishing with the excellent figures of 7 for 38, as the Hill leapfrogged previous leaders Brentham, who were held to a draw by Harrow Town. Southgate are at home to Twickenham this Saturday, 11 o'clock, while Enfield host Barnes and Winchmore Hill travel to Harrow Town. Both these games starting at 12:30.
Town warm up with win over the Bees. Enfield Town kicked off their build-up to the new season with an encouraging 2-1 win over a Barnet 11 at a sun-baked Queen Elizabeth Stadium on Saturday. Town's starting line-up included many familiar faces as well as new signings, central defender Curtis Uja and midfielder Merrick James Lewis, and they were quickly into their stride. Visiting keeper Kai Mackenzie Lyle saved after good play between Corey Whiteley, Tyler Campbell and Ricky Gabriel, and Whiteley again tested the keeper soon afterwards. Barnett's Sean Batt spurned an opportunity to give the visitors the lead after 10 minutes when his penalty, awarded for a trip, was saved by Nathan MacDonald diving to his right. But he made amends 10 minutes before the break when he shrugged off a challenge in an attack down the left before burying the ball past MacDonald. Town were level by half-time, however, equalising in the 43rd minute when Whiteley cut in from the left and fired the ball into the net via the underside of the bar. And the second half was barely 2 minutes old when Town struck what proved to be the decisive goal. Gabriel strode down the left before rolling the ball past Mackenzie Lyle after finding himself in space with only the keeper to beat. The conditions took their toll in the second half and interrupted the flow of the game, but there were near misses at either end, notably when a lob over Bobby Fenella, Town's substitute goalkeeper, who later pulled off a fine double save, scraped the crossbar. Town, who were due to host Reading under-21s last night, Tuesday, because this was written on Wednesday, continue their pre-season programme with home games against a Brighton and Hove Albion 11 on Friday at 7:30pm and Queen's Park Rangers under-21s on Saturday at 3pm. The club are launching a fan funding scheme which allows supporters to pay for membership and season tickets on a monthly basis and have access to match highlights, home shirts, matchday programmes and cup match tickets.
And now an athletics story about a local sprinter who's targeting an Olympic medal. With 4 senior international medals already secured, Enfield and Harrogate sprinter Bianca Williams is desperate to add to the collection at next month's Rio 2016 Olympic Games. Williams shot to prominence during the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, taking bronze in the 200 metres before picking up another third place in the 4x100 metres relay. The 22-year-old is part of Team GB's 7-strong 4x100 metres relay squad heading to Rio next month, and Williams is confident the team can repeat their 2014 success on the biggest stage. Since 2014 it has been non-stop up and down, but it's been really cool at the same time, said the 2010 England under 17 100 metres champion. British women's sprinting is so good right now. It has been absolutely nuts for the last 3 years. It is so good that we get the recognition from other people and press, so that it's not just the men, it is the women too. It's nice to feel noticed and recognised. I don't know how he did it, but 2014 was just the best year. And even 2015 was good, to be fair. I didn't start my season that well, but ended on a high. And it's been the same this year. I didn't start particularly well, but I've got the high of the Olympics now. The target is a medal. We nearly got one at the World Championships in Beijing last year, so it's not that far away. Williams has just graduated from the University of East London with a degree in sport and exercise science. Shorn of the responsibility of studying, revision and exams, she's now totally focused on the final build-up to her debut Olympic Games. I'm just excited to be there and soak it all in. I've not really spoken to anyone else about what the Games are like. I just want to see it for myself, not from someone else's perspective. But my friend Amy is going for swimming, so it's going to be cool to have her there. And she went to 2012 too, so it will be nice to chill with her, to have her show me around. Williams' Olympic experience began 4 years ago when she competed in the London Olympic Stadium in the 2012 BUCS Championships. More than 60% of British gold medalists since 1992 have participated in BUCS sport, with 56 members of Team GB at the London 2012 Olympics competing for Great Britain at the World University Games. BUCS is cool. You get to compete against some of the fastest girls from around the UK, added the 2015 BUCS Indoor 60 metres champion. British Universities and Colleges Sport, that's BUCS, is the national governing body for higher education sport in the UK, representing more than 150 institutions. Covering 52 sports, BUCS aids grassroots participation through to supporting aspiring elite athletes en route to Commonwealth or Olympic Games. Go to www.bucs.org.uk.
Table tennis. Enfield teenager Denise Payet helped England to claim a fine 5th place in the Cadet Girls team event at the European Youth Table Tennis Championships. The 15-year-old won all of her matches as England, who started the competition outside the leading 16 nations in the second tier, beat Latvia 3-0, Portugal 3-2 and Norway 3-0 to top their group. Playoff victories over Italy 3-2 and third seeds France 3-1, the latter sealed by Payet beating Prithika Pavade 12-10 in the deciding 5th set, put England in the last 8, where Slovenia proved too strong, winning 3-0. A 3-2 triumph over Germany meant England faced Hungary in the playoff for 5th and 6th places, and Payet won her 2 singles 3-0 and took the doubles with Molly Patterson to ensure a 3-2 overall victory. Payet also competed in the cadet girls singles and beat Turkey's Kagla Yagmakona 4-0 in the first round, but she was defeated in the last 64 by Ekaterina Zironova of Russia, going down 4-1. In the girls' doubles, Payet and Nika Kabetic of Slovenia were beaten 3-0 by Sweden's Hanna Hjelesen and Jenny Edvinsson in the last 64. In the mixed doubles, Payet and James Smith were beaten 3-0 in the first round by Sweden's Martin Friis and Edvinsson.
Moving away from sport, consultation starts on development of tired site. Public consultation focusing on proposed plans for redevelopment in Cockfosters has begun. The planned scheme for 116 Cockfosters Road was exhibited at Church House in Chalk Lane on Friday and Saturday. The proposed work would include retail and restaurant space at the front, new homes, a hotel and a medical centre. Matthew Chillingworth, asset manager at Hermes Investment Management, which is running the project, said, "We're excited to be able to showcase our plans to the local community." The proposed development seeks to regenerate a tired town centre site by joining the high street to the tube station on the southern side and by creating a new public realm. For those who could not attend the exhibition, the plans will be available by emailing cbutler@cockfosters-green.co.uk.
Past Master, looking at borough's history. Joe Studman talks about Enfield's origins. Last year, Enfield celebrated its 50th anniversary as a London borough, but the rich history of the area goes back centuries after it began as a small market town in the 1300s before growing into the huge diverse suburb it is today. Joe Studman, a local history guide, is keen for people in Enfield to learn more about its forgotten history, particularly the significance of how many events shaped the rest of Britain's history, including the development of the electricity industry and the first cash machine. He regularly organises walks around the borough and is holding an illustrated talk at 40 Hall Estate on Wednesday evening, which will look at the history of local government in Enfield from Tudor times to 1965, when the London Borough was formed. Joe describes how the evening will try to explain the development of parish democracy and how local politics evolved from the old manor courts. He says, "The history of Enfield is rich, some of which ranges from the fact that it was the first Roman staging post for people travelling north from London to make stops during long journeys, and Queen Elizabeth I also stayed here. It is a big borough with over 300,000 people living here, and there is so much history that people don't know about, and so that is the aim of my talks. I do 12 different themed walks around the borough and point out significant buildings or facts. For instance, the Royal Small Arms Factory, located in Enfield Lock, was the most important ammunition place for 100 years after World War I. Also, the electrical developments in the UK started in Enfield, including the first water heater, the first electric fire, and the light bulb, so there is an incredible amount of history. Joe has lived in Enfield for 40 years, and a few years ago he wanted to know more about the history of his home, but was unable to find any evening classes or useful information in local archives. As a result, he set up his own history class 4 years ago, and has been running them ever since. He's fascinated by the past and was even asked by Enfield Council to give a speech as part of the anniversary celebrations last year. He explains that his latest talk will focus on the past 50 years rather than delve back too far in time. However, there will be anecdotes looking at government from Elizabethan times, when they had the Poor Law, through to the workhouse and the development of the first Board of Health in the 19th century. A lot of history is surprising, yet interesting. When they were deciding on a name for the new borough in 1965, other options that were considered were Eden Gate and South Eden, both of which include part of the names of the former boroughs of Edmonton, Enfield and Southgate. He also said that after the Reformation, local government developed around the vestry church, which was open to all ratepayers. These became very rowdy, and uncontrolled democracy was offensive to the vicar. That's what it says. An uncontrolled democracy was offensive to the vicar. So he formed a select vestry that was open only to the vicar, 4 church wardens, and 12 of the most substantial ratepayers of Enfield. It wasn't democratic, as vacancies were filled by votes of existing members only. No referendum was offered to the good folk of Enfield in the 17th century. I will also talk about Agnes Middleton, who was married 4 times to wealthy merchants. She left the income from her land near Benfleet in Essex, known as Poynitz, to pay for chantry priests to say prayers for her husbands. When chantries were abolished by Edward VI, the money was used to found Enfield Grammar School. Joe admits he's lucky to be able to earn some extra pocket money and turn his passion into a job. He enjoys walking round picturesque Winchmore Hill and Chase Side, as he says they are packed with history, and is already preparing next month's talk, which will delve into Enfield's importance in British history. He says, "I have no plans to stop doing the talks anytime soon, as there is still so much history that the public has yet to discover and learn about." Tales from Enfield History, 40 Hall Estate, 40 Hill, Enfield, EN2 9HA, July the 20th to September the 21st, 7:30pm. Details online, 40hallestate.co.uk.
And finally, Southgate resounds to the Rio beat. The spirit of Rio came to Southgate as school children staged a Brazilian-style carnival down the high street as part of pre-Olympic Games celebrations. Youngsters at St Andrew's Primary School in Chase Road took part in the procession, much to the amazement of motorists, as they headed to St Andrew's Church for a fashion show. The school's head teacher, Matthew Clifford, said, "We wanted to bring a bit of colour to Southgate High Street." Children have been learning all about Brazil in the run-up to the Rio Olympics next month. They have sampled Brazilian cookery, learnt about popular sports in the South American country, and studied the wildlife found in rainforests. Some of the pupils had made carnival-inspired masks, and even the staff dressed up. Mr. Clifford had tie-dyed his costume. He said, "We are celebrating as a school, as we have had good results from all the hard work this year." The school has been rated good by Ofsted inspectors. The previous inspection in 2013 said that it needed improvement. Well, we've reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Caroline, John, Ali, Darren and Colin on the controls, it's...
Goodbye.
Coming up next, the latest news and information for the Greater London area from InfoSound. The Enfield Talking newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.